Walk alone, rise alone, win alone. This is not just a slogan, it's a call to those who dare to walk alone, to train in silence when no one is watching, and to win without the need for applause. On the path of Stoicism, we do not seek validation from the outside world. Instead, we build inner strength through discipline, perseverance, and deep self-reflection. He who follows reason in all things is both tranquil and active at the same time, and also cheerful and collected. Marcus Aurelius. Solitude, when rightly understood, is not loneliness. It is a sacred space, a temple of the soul where you forge your character, test your convictions, and emerge reborn as a stronger version of yourself. Gosh, this video is not for those looking for temporary comfort. It is for you, the one ready to face yourself. Watch until the end. Don't skip a second. Becco's within it. You may just find your own path. Chapter 1. Walk alone. Chapter 1. The silence is not empty, it is thepigening. To walk alone is not an act of defiance. It is a returned, tough self, stripped of noise, free from the weight of others' expectations, in a world that constantly pulls us outward toward validation, toward belonging, toward the fleeting applause of the crowd. Choosing solitude is a radical gesture. It is not an escape. Clarity. When you walk alone, you begin to hear what the world drowned out, your own voice. You start to see what was hidden behind illusions, the truth of who you are and who you are not.
Oh, yeah.
There is no one to impress, no netto blame, only you.
Ow.
Andreal. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." These words are not just poetic, they are a roadmap. The retreat into your soul is not a retreat from life, but a return to the most essential part of it. In your own soul, you are no longer defined by the stories others told about you. Are not your reputation. You are not your failures. You are not your followers. You are something quieter and infinitely stronger.
Oh.
And yet the beginning is no easy. The silence can feel like a storm when you first enter it. Lonely as discus itself is pain, not because solitude hurts, but because it expresses everything we've used to avoid ourselves. The voices of doubt, the shadows of comparison, the ache of abandonment, they all rise to the surface when we walk alone. But this confrontation is necessary. Without it, there's no transformation. The walk alone is not glamorous. It is not loud. It is not for the crowd. It is the hidden work, the spiritual training, the breaking down of false identities. So something real can be rebuilt. There is a sacredness to solitude when it is chosen. It becomes a workshop for the soul, a quiet forge where strength is not shouted but shaped. The man or woman who walks alone walks into discomfort, but they also walk toward peace. Slowly, step by step, distraction fades. Stillness grows. You stop waiting for the world to notice you because you've already begun to notice yourself. Eventually, you will no longer need the noise. You will no longer fear thistleance. In that stillness, you will become something unshakable. Not because others told you who you are, but because you remembered. To walk alone is not to be lost. It is to be found fully, deeply, inwardly. It is no to weakness. It is the foundation of everything that follows. Before you can race, before you can win, you must first be willing to walk alone. Chapter 2, Rise Alone. Chapter 2, Rise Alone. There is a moment no one sees. A quiet hour before dawn. A journal half filled, a pair of shoes by the door. You resonate because anyone is watching, not because applause is promised, but because your soul demands it. To rise alone is to rise for reasons no one understands. Is the decision to show up for yourself when the world has moved on? When no one believes? When even you have a doubt? Yet still you rise. Because deep within you a voice whispers, "Standi veno." The Stoics never asked for attention. They didn't perform for crowds, trained in silence and endured in solitude, because they understood what the modern world forgets. True strength is formed in the absence of eyes. You rise without validation, without reassurance, without likes. You rise because your actions are not tied to their praise. They are tied toward your purpose. This is the essence of Stoicism, to be ruled by your reason, not their opinion, by your principles, not their noise. And it is here in this sacred silence that discipline is born. Not loud, not glorious, but consistent, quiet, relentless. The alarm rings and you get up, not because someone told you to, but because you made a vow to yourself. You lift the weight. You read the page. You write the line. You breathe truth. Discomfort, not for recognition, but for transformation. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Don't wish to be thought to know anything. This is the cost of rising alone. Misunderstanding, isolation, the judgment of those who never dared the climb. They will laugh. They will dismiss. They will call your path extreme, but they will never understand the fire you're building within. And that's the point. Your progress is not theirs to witness. It is yours to live. Because rising alone is not just about standing up. It's about standing apart, away from what is easy, away from what is expected. It is a rebellion, not against the world, but against the weaker version of yourself. You refuse comfort. You deny shortcuts. You choose the narrow path, the longer one, the lonelier one, because that's where greatness is shaped. And as you rise silently, daily without fanfare, you'll begin to notice something. You need less. Less praise, less attention, less validation. In its place, something stronger emerges. Clarity, focus, power. The kind-off power that doesn't shout, but never bows. Eventually, the same people who overlooked you will wonder how you did it. But by then, you won't be seeking their understanding. You'll be too far ahead, too anchored within, transformed. So rise even when it's dark, even when you're tired, even when no one claps, especially then, because that's when it matters most. Chapter 3, Win Alone. Chapter 3, Win Alone. Alone. You've risen through pain, rejection, and silence. Now comes the part that breaks most people. Not the climb, but the moment after. The summit, the victory, the silence after the storm. But victory in the eyes of a Stoic is never loud. True triumph is not about trophies, applause, or someone finally saying, "You were right." It's the quiet clarity that comes when you no longer need them to. It's mastering yourself. It's your fear, your impulses, your need to prove. You become a mountain that once seemed impossible to scale. The real enemy is not outside. It's the inner voice that says, "You're not enough unless someone sees you win." It whispers, "What's the point if no one is watching?" That's the voice. Use a lance, not with pride, but with peace. And when you win that battle, there are no fireworks, only stillness. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, no Tanamore. Not the people who left, not the ones who doubted, not even the mirror. Because the Stoic knows you are the only judge who matters. Victory isn't in the noise. It lives in the quiet choices. No one sees. Waking up early when you could have stayed asleep. Choosing truth when lies would have been easier. Saying no to comfort in favor of growth. These moments don't trend, but they transform. Winning alone means not waiting for permission. Not waiting for the crowd to cheer. Not needing an audience to validate your breakthrough. It is walking past your past self with silent dignity, because you have become Sumionaire's old self could only dream of. And no, the world may not notice. But one day, those who left you behind will look back. They'll realize you became and forgot all. not because you sought revenge, but because you mastered or seed in their absence. That's not spite. That's stoic power. You didn't scream for attention. You whispered with action, and the echo willed louder than anything noise could ever achieve. But the story doesn't end at the summit. Because once you win alone, a new challenge begins. Not with others, but with yourself. What happens after victory when there's no one to share it with? Is solitude your final enemy or your greatest ally? Keep watching. What comes next isn't just about being alone. It's about learning how to thrive in it. Chapter 4. The Stoics' Solitude. Chapter 4. The Stoics' Solitude. Solitude is not an escape. It is not a resignation nor a retreat from the world. It is instead a return to the self, a deliberate act of elevation. For the Stoic, solitude is not exile, it is refinement. It is where the soul breathes, where the fog of noise lifts, and where clarity begins. In a world obsessed with validation, with noise, with proving oneself to others, walking alone is often misunderstood. But to walk alone is to walk inward. It is in solitude that your values are sharpened like a blade, precise, uncompromising. It is in silence that your emotions cease to control you and instead become tools you can examine, understand, and command. And it is in distance from distraction that your mind is no longer a captive off the world, but a sovereign territory, clear, disciplined, and free. Marcus Aurelius, writing alone in his journal, reminded himself, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Solitude is that retreat, not for hiding, but for preparing. It is not the rejection of society, but the preparation. To return to it stronger, calmer, more intact, and yet solitude is not always comfortable. It will test you. It will reveal what distractions once hid. It will ask you who you are when no one is watching. But in those questions lies your becoming. True strength is not found in the crowd. It is built in silence, in shadow, in the slow, steady practice of meeting yourself every day, without excuses, without spectacle. So if you are alone, right? Now, you are not broken. You are being built. And if they left you, let them go. Let them underestimate you. Let them believe your silence is surrender. Because when you rise from solitude, not with noise but with unshakable stillness, they will see the truth. You never needed them to begin with? What about you? Have you experienced solitude as something that chapped you instead of breaking you? Leave a comment below and share your moment of silence that became your strength. Chapter 5. Self-Sufficiency. Chapter 5. Self-Sufficiency. To walk alone is not to be alone. To stand alone is not to be abandoned. And to become self-sufficient is not to become isolated. True self-sufficiency, as the Stoics teach us, is not a rejection of others, but a reclamation of the self. It is the quiet realization that your peace does not depend on the opinions, emotions, or presence of anyone else. It is the art of standing in the middle of chaos and remaining untouched because you've built something unshakable inside. He is a wise man who is content with what he has, whatever it may be. Seneca the Stoic does not shut the world out. He simply stops needing the world to validate him. He may enjoy company, friendship, and love, but he does not require them to feel worthy. This is not coldness. It is clarity. Because when your sense of value is rooted within, no rejection can destroy you, and no praise can distract you. Let me give you an example. There's a man who wakes at 500 a.m. each day, not because someone told him to, not because he's chasing applause, but because he made a vow to himself. He works on his craft in silence. He exercises in a gym with no mirrors. He reads books that no one will ever ask him about. And at night, when the world is scrolling and escaping, he reflects and writes not to be seen to see himself more clearly. Most people don't even know his name. But one day he will, because while others looked outward, he built inward. That's self-sufficiency. That's the power of walking alone, not in bitterness, but in quiet purpose. The world will try to tell you that you need more followers, more validation, more attention. But the Stoic knows needing less is the ultimate power. when you stop seeking. Permission to live with honor, you begin to truly live. So I ask you, what part of you still waits for someone else to give you the green light? Who are you when no one is watching? If any words in this chapter stirred something in you, leave a comment. Tell us what self-sufficiency means in your life. How are you reclaiming your sense of self in a noisy world? Your insights might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. You've made it halfway through this journey, and that means something. It means you're not just watching passively, you're reflecting, you're awakening. Thank you for walking this far with us, but we're not done. The path of stoicism just ask us to stand alone. It demands that we stay disciplined, when no one claps, no one cheers, and no one even knows. In the next chapter, we'll explore theque agony and the silent strength that come when your only accountability is yourself. Stay with us until the end. That's where the real power reveals itself. Chapter 6, The Lonely Discipline. Chapter 6, The Lonely Discipline. Discipline is not loud. It doesn't boast. It doesn't beg for recognition. But in the quiet hours, when the world is asleep, when no one is watching, you will find it beside you like a loyal companion. It's unshaken by storms, undistracted by applause. It walks with you in silence when no one else dares to follow. To walk alone is not a punishment. It is a purification. And in that solitude, discipline becomes a seer greatest ally. It's not the rigid kind imposed by fear or external control, but kind you choose. The kind that arises not because someone admits it, but because you've looked within and decided that self-mastery is the highest form of freedom. You rise early, not because someone commands it, but because you made a promise to yourself. You do. The hard thing not for crit, but because your soul knows it is right. Every repetition, every sacrifice, every morning that begins in darkness and silence is not wasted. They are the sacred rituals of becoming. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, just the two do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. That sentence is an invitation, a live with integrity when no one is watching. It reminds us that virtue is not performance, it's devotion. What matters is that you do what is right, not who sees you do it. In the Stoic path, we do not train for appraisal. We do not write for praise or practice to impress. We act because a character demands it. Discipline in its purest form is an act of love for the future self. We are building brick by brick in solitude, and yes, it is lonely deeply. But it is in that loneliness that your character is revealed. When no one texts, when no one claps, when no one asks how you're doing, that is when you either break or build. And those who learn to build in silence become imbriacal. Each small habit repeated without witness becomes a stone. And over time, those stones rise not into towers of vanity, but into the unshakable inner citadel of a disciplined soul.
Oh.
That's where true confidence is born. It's not improving something to others, but improving something to yourself. The world may celebrate noise, but you, if you choose this path, you will ignore silence. You will train in the dark so that when the light finds you, you will already be ready. Let them leave. Let them doubt. Let them regret. I walk, rise. Win. Because in the end, discipline is not about control. It's about becoming. Becoming demands solitude. Chapter 7. Detach to master. Chapter 7. Detach to master. To walk alone is not to abandon the world, but to unshackle yourself from its grip. Detachment is not indifference. It is clarity. It is choosing to act without being enslaved by the outcome. On the Stoic path, you'd not stop caring. You stop clinging. Begin to understand that mastery is not control over others or events, but mastery over your own responses to them. You don't do what is right because it will work. You do it because it is you, the one who rises with integrity, even when no one notices. The one who chooses discipline, even when the reward is uncertain. You act not for applause, but from alignment. Detachment, in its truest form, is freedom. It's not from responsibility, it's from the chains of expectation. The world has taught you to chase results, to measure success by trophies, followers, money, or recognition. But that Stoic knows the only victory that matters is the one within. When you do not crave praise, you become unshakable. When you no longer fear failure, you become unstoppable. Imagine the athlete who wakes before dawn to train in silence. No cameras, no coaches, no crowd. Day after day, she repeats the same drills. She fails, corrects, and adjusts. She doesn't do it for medals or headlines. She does it because every drop of sweat is a step toward becoming. She is detached from outcomes. And in that detachment, she finds mastery. When the moment comes, Anthe, lights finally shine, she is ready not because she hoped for it, but because she prepared regardless. This is your call to act without demando. Serve your purpose without seeking applause. You are not here to please, Theward. You are here to become unshakable in it. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And when you let go, truly let go, you rise. Because the man who walks without fear of loss is the man who cannot be defeated. The one who wins Saloni does not win out of spite, but because he has mastered the silence within himself. Let them doubt you. Let them leave. That's not your burden. Your burden is only this: to live with virtue, to stand firm, to keep becoming. Mastery is not loud, it is not dramatic, it does not demand to be seen, which leads us to what may be the most paradoxical and powerful moment in the Stoic journey. What if your greatest triumph made no sound? What if your mass heroic act happened in a room no one entered? In the next chapter, we descend chapter 8, the silent victory, into the quiet furnace, where true transformation is forged, not through applause, but through restraint, through stillness, through invisible strength. You've walked alone this far, but in the next step, you disappear from the world to reappear as something it cannot ignore. Stay with us. Chapter 8. The Silent Victory. Not all victories are loud. Not every triumph needs a stage, an audience, or applause. Some of the greatest conquests happen within, the kind that no one sees, but you carry them like a quiet crown. 2. Walk alone, rise alone, and win alone is not an act of pride, but one of deep strength. It is the ability to persist without noise, to grow without validation, to become without remission. The Stoic does not raise his voice to prove a point. He does not chase recognition or revenge. His victories are silent because they err. It's a card. True greatness, after all, doesn't announce itself. It simply is. The decision to forgive instead of retaliate, to wait instead of rush, to endure instead of escape. These are not acts of weakness. They're evidence of a soul tempered by fire, yet ruled by peace. You begin to understand the power of silence when you no longer feel the need to explain yourself. When you stop reacting to every opinion, every slight, every distraction that claws for your attention. The world trains us to perform, to prove, to parade. But the Stoic trains in silence. His gym is solitude. His audience is virtue. Reward is mastery of self. In a culture obsessed with noise, silence becomes rebellion. When you choose stillness over reaction, presence over performance, you begin to reclaim your power. The one who walks quietly is not weak. He's focused. It is not afraid to be unseen because he knows the value of what he's becoming. Every time you refuse to argue, to beg, to chase, you're choosing something higher. You're risking peace. You're choosing evolution. Victory is not always a medal. Sometimes it is a night you didn't give up, a day you stayed patient, a conversation where you stayed kind. Sometimes it's simply the strength to keep going when no one cheers, when no one sees, when no one believes. And yet you continue, that is, the silent victory. That is the Stoic way. In that spirit, your rise does not need to be revenge. It becomes revelation. Let them regret leaving. Let them watch from a distance.
What?
Don't explain. Just become quietly, powerfully, unapologetically. Because in the end, the ones who walk alone carry something, those who follow the crowd never will. Inner peace forget through storms, wisdom born of silence, and a life lived by their own terms. If this resonates with your journey, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. What has been your greatest silent victory? Your story might be the very thing that helps someone else keep walking. Chapter 9. Build the Inner Citadel. Chapter 9. Build the Inner Citadel. They left you perhaps without warning, perhaps with betrayal. But in that silence, they left behind. Something begins to awaken. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt from the inside out. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel, a fortress within the soul. It is untouched by chaos, immune to flattery, and invulnerable to loss. No storm reaches its gates. No betrayal breaks its walls. When the world outside collapses, when the applause stops, and the people vanish, you do not chase, you do not beg. You retreat not in fear but on strength. It's not to escape, but to rebuild, not to hide, but to sharpen. The citadel is not comfortable, it is preparation. It is where you face the truth without distraction, where you confront weakness without shame. You bleed there, you grow there. When you walk out of it, you do not seek validation. You carry quiet conviction. You walk alone. But you are never empty echoes. You carry the fortress with you always. This fortress is not made of stone or steel. It is built with discipline, reinforced with principle, and lit from within by daily reflection. Every time you say no to distraction, every time you choose growth over comfort, every moment you resist the need for validation, you are laying brick upon brick, quietly, steadily. While others chase applause, you'll cultivate stillness. While they abandon you for what is easy, you remain with what is true. Because solitude is not your weakness, it is your weapon. And the citadel is where you sharpen it. Inside this sacred space, you are not at the mercy of the world, or the master of your mind. You are not pulled by moods or trends, not swayed by praise or rejection. You become the kind person who can endure storms without trembling because your shelter is internal, not circumstantial. And yes, they will regret leaving you. But not because you shout, not because you show off, and not because you prove them wrong out of spite. No, your silence will become the loudest thing they hear, because while they looked outward for strength, you built something unshakable inward. While therein from difficulty, you walked straight into fire and emerged with clarity. The world will see the result, but it will not see the work. It will not see the early mornings, the lonely nights, the pages written when no one read, the effort repeated when no one noticed. But thought is how citadels are built, hidden, patient, sacred. So walk alone, not in resentment, but in resolve. Rise alone, not to escape others, but to return to yourself. Win alone, not for the crowd, but for your own peace. The citadel was never meant to impress, it was meant to protect. When the world forgets your name, you will not forget your values. When you are left with nothing, you will still possess everything that matters. That is the promise of Stoicism. That is the reward of walking the path few are willing to take. It now, brick by brick, moment by moment, alone, silently, powerfully, and when they finally look back, they won't find the same person they left. They'll find a citadel. Chapter 10. Walk alone, but never Chapter 10. Walk alone, but never against yourself. Against yourself. To walk alone is a sacred act of courage. It is the quiet defiance of a soul that chooses truth over approval, solitude over noise, growth over comfort. But let this be clear. Walking alone does not mean waging war against yourself. Stoicism does not glorify self-destruction, nor does it demand perfection at the cost of inner peace. It calls for clarity, for strength, for reason, but never for cruelty, toward the self. In a world obsessed with external validation, it is easy to mistake self-discipline for self-punishment. The Stoic knows the difference. You are not meant to be your own enemy. You are meant to be your own ally, steadfast, sober-minded, and fiercely compassionate. To rise alone, you must first refuse to fall into the trap of self-sabotage. You do not have to be perfect to be powerful. You do not have to be unbreakable to be unshakable. The Stoic path is not about becoming a statue. It is about becoming a flame that endures the wind. Not because it never flickers, but because it never goes out. The true Stoic does not deny their humanity. They embrace it, then discipline it, then elevate it. Walking alone means you may lose the noise off the crowd, but you gain the clarity of your own voice. And that voice must be guided by reason, not ruled by shame. You will stumble. You will falter. But when you do, speak to yourself, not with blame, but with wisdom. Ask, what have I learned? Not, what is wrong with me? Growth is never born from condemnation. It blooms in the soil of understanding. To walk alone, but never against yourself, is to become both the teacher and the student of your own life. It is to hold yourself to high standards without holding a knife to your own throat. It is to look in the mirror, Anzi. You are not there yet, but you are still worth the fight. That is not a weakness. That is sovereignty, Marcus Aurelius wrote. The impedimento action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, but you are not the impediment. You are the way. When the world turns its back, your task is not to turn against yourself in response. Your task is to become the kind of person you would never abandon. So walk alone, rise alone, win alone. But as you do, take yourself with you. Stand beside the younger version of yourself who once doubted. Speak gently to the tired version of you, who once wanted to quit. Hold hands with the stronger self you are still becoming. You are not alone when you have yourself. And you are not stoic if you'll forget to be human. You walk through the silence. You face the shadows. You conclusion, rose without applause. That's not loneliness. That's growth. That's freedom. That's the making of your inner peace. Walk alone doesn't mean you are lost. It means you are on the path that few dare to take, the path where you don't chase crowds but cultivate character. The Stoic doesn't need an audience. It needs principles, discipline, and the courage to keep going even when no one is watching. Because in the end, the quiet victory is the loudest. So now I'll ask you, have you ever felt stronger after walking alone? What moment in solitude shaped you the most? Share it in the comments below. Your story may be a spark that lights someone else's fire. If this message resonated with your journey, don't walk away just yet. There's more waiting for you. Watch the next video appearing on screen. Subscribe so you don't miss the next lesson in strength, silence, and stoicism. Your path begins within. Let's walk in together alone.